Welcome back to Couch Talk. Today I'd like to talk about Titans, the new trailer released at Comic Con, based off of the cartoon hit series on Cartoon Network Teen Titans. First and foremost, I want to say that I see a lot of people kind of talking bad about it, saying like the tone is too dark and like the scenery is too dark and everything. And I just want to go out on a limb here and say that I think this looks exciting. Now, one of the problems with this dark tone in the TV series is that it's not meshing well with the new era of DC movies under the new banner, The Worlds of DC or something like that, The Worlds of Warner Brothers. It seems like they're definitely going for a lighter tone, and the TV shows are still kind of trying to take it dark. But I think this is exciting as hell. I mean, this whole show is about a bunch of renegade kids that are kind of like outcasts, and they're struggling. I mean, Raven's constantly having inner battles with her father. Starfire, at least in the cartoon, was enslaved on her home planet, and Robin is really just sick and tired of living under Batman's wing and living in his shadow and doing everything by his rules. Batman who wants to go out every night and arrest these criminals, like beat them up and like throw them in jail, but then they get out and they do it again, and Robin's just sick of it and he wants to change it. This is based off of the Dick Grayson Robin, at least in the comics and the cartoons it is. Um, I was watching a couple other vloggers talk about how they thought that the whole "fuck Batman" line that he has in that was kind of cheesy, but I don't think it's cheesy at all. Or they said it was lazy writing, but I don't think it was lazy writing. I think that was the realest thing that he could have said in that situation. Think about it like this: everyone has someone that they strongly dislike, whether it be an ex or a friend that you had a falling out with, or a family member. And I know, at least for me, um, when me and my ex broke up, the first couple weeks after that, when people would ask me like, "Hey, what happened to so and so?" I'd be like, "Fuck them," and it seemed very real to me and like just really grounded in like what someone would actually say in that situation. So I don't think it's cheesy. I think they're trying to really bring it down to earth. And as for the darkness, because the show is incredibly dark, I think one of two things. I think one, DC stands out and sets itself aside from Marvel by being a little bit darker, and I think that it's supposed to be a little bit more ominous and a little bit more creepy. And all the things that the Titans do are really at night. At least in Batman's world, you don't see Batman flying around in the day. However, I don't think the show is all necessarily dark because of the sake of being dark. I think it definitely has to do with the budget. Now, that's not to say I think that their budget is significantly less than like Arrow and the Flash, but someone with like Arrow who doesn't have any superpowers, it's a lot more to throw a budget at scenery than the character himself when you have someone that only shoots bow and arrows, as opposed to Starfire who glows, her hair glows, she shoots fire out of her hands, a kid that turns into a different animal, a girl that is demonic, and then, I mean, there's Robin, but even though he doesn't really need any CGI, it's still, you have an entire cast that does. And I mean, I don't see Cyborg in the show, which he should be, but I guess that was out of the budget range. But they are bringing in Dove and Hawkman, so I'd like to see how they pull that off. Dove was in the trailer briefly, and she looked pretty good. But I think that instead of investing a lot of their money into equal portions, like here's some for the characters and here's some for the scenery and here's some for this, I think they invested as much of it as they could into the characters, just so they could really bring these characters to life and do them justice. And then as for the scenery and everything else, they kind of dimmed the lights down a little bit, just to kind of distract you from the fact that it probably is really shitty sets, or it is all CGI, or whatever the case may be. But as long as the characters are good and the choreography is good, um, the the darkness is really only a minor flaw. But like I said, I think the big problem with this show right now is that it's really going against what DC's trying to do, reinventing their whole strategy and making it a little bit more lighter. I like to see how Swamp Thing turns out and everything else. As for the characters themselves, Robin looks fantastic. The suit is so spot on, and it's so like if there was really a Robin, that's what he would look like. Uh, Raven, you never see her suited up in her signature, cape, but I mean, again, this is an origin story, so I'm sure we'll see them get there. Starfire looks good, except I don't understand what's going on with the fur coat. I heard some rumors or something that she's apparently a stripper in the beginning of the show. I don't know why they would do that. I don't know why they wouldn't just stick with the way it was in the cartoons. But it seems like an odd choice to me, so I didn't really like that too much. But as for her powers, it looked great. The only big problem with the only big problem I really have is with Beast Boy. They don't show him transform into an animal at any point in the trailer, and I'm really hoping they don't do the whole like Spider-Man where he doesn't actually transform into a spider, but where he takes on his abilities. Like I hope it's not like he just becomes as strong as a rhino or as agile as a cat. Like I actually hope they make him transform into something. And the only other gripe is that Cyborg's not in it. He was a big part of, the cartoon and one of my favorite characters. And I don't know if it was a budget thing or because they have his character in the universe, the DCEU or whatever it's called now. But it just seems odd that they wouldn't have one of the main characters in it. So I was a little disappointed in that. But I think the show looks pretty good. I don't think it deserves some of the hate it's getting. I don't think it's worth $75, as people are saying this show isn't worth $75 for a stupid streaming service. However, I think everything else, including the Titans, is. I mean, we got James Wan, who's making my most anticipated DC movie of 2018, 2019, and probably 2020. Directing and producing the first episode of Swamp Thing. We also got the Harley Quinn, and I'm a fan of the comics, and you have every single comic ever made on there, every comic that comes out, so you could read them from the comfort of your couch and not have to spend a penny other than the $75 a year. They also have every DC movie. They're going to have every DC movie coming out on it, every DC cartoon. I think this is only appealing, honestly, to die-hard DC fans because, I have friends at work that are interested in watching Titans, but they don't have an interest in anything else. So for them, it's like, why are we going to spend $75? Forget it. We won't even watch a show. And I get that. This streaming service is really going to be for diehard DC, fans. And I'd really like to see how this turns out, especially since they're kind of competing with Marvel because Marvel's doing the same thing. And yeah, aside from that, I mean, they hired a bunch of no-name actors. The only kid I really recognize is the guy that plays Robin, and he was in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, the last one. Besides that, I kind of like that they're giving all these new young actors a chance to shine because if you throw in one or two A-list actors or even B-list actors, it kind of takes away from the rest of the cast. And I mean, Robin is the leader, so I get why they kind of tried to hire someone that looked a little familiar. But not having A-list actors, to me at least, it's not like I'm like, oh, I really like this guy from this movie, so I'm gonna pay attention to him. It's kind of like you get to kind of enjoy all these characters unfold and appreciate all of them and watch them all grow into better actors. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I hope some of you agree with me. I hope some of you give the show a chance. I really think they're putting a lot into it. Jeff Johns, who created the New 52, is a great and fantastic writer. He helped write Wonder Woman. He was on board after the Justice League, so we can't really blame him for that. He's helping a little bit with Aquaman. And again, I think he is kind of doing a good job of taking part in steering the DC in the right direction. So, yeah, anyway, let me know what you think.